Welcome to the Popcorn Wine Down with Tammy and Eddie. Grab your popcorn, get yourself a glass of wine, and come hang out with us as we discuss TV shows, movies, music, and pop culture.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wine Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
And this week we will be discussing The Neighborhood. But first, let's get to the wind down. Tammy, this was a great week. A lot of great new music came out. BTS released B, which we will save for a future discussion. Megan Thee Stallion also released her debut album, Good News. And the baby
Ain't she been out for a couple years?
She has, but she's mostly been releasing like mixtapes and EPs. So this was her first official debut. So, and it starts off with this song called Shots Fired. And it's, she was firing shots at that little dude who, Tory the Stallion. Tory Lanez. But yeah, it's pretty good. So I highly recommend you check it out. Also, Shawn Mendes and Justin Bieber released a new song too. It's pretty cool, called Monster.
Love it.
Yeah, it's great. So, great week for music fans out there. Also, Tammy, I broke some news to you earlier this week, and I wanted to get it out of the way. So you can.
Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing, Eddie?
Why
are you laughing? Are you laughing so you don't hear me crying? Is that what you're doing, Eddie?
I am, and I'm also going back to when I first read it, and I'm like, okay, and I wrote about it on the website, plug, thepopcornwinedown.com. But I actually literally wrote, I can see Tammy's head exploding as I write this.
I saw that.
And then I had to think about, well, do I want to tell her now or do I want to wait till we act? And I was like, no, I need to tell her. So I told you in the middle of the week, and I remember that reaction too.
It's like I didn't even know what to say. Like you were just like, yeah, I knew that was coming. I was like, I'm in a building where I can't just curse up a storm up and down the hallway. So yeah.
Yeah, I told her at the day job. Where we have to try to remember that we're supposed to be professionals.
Yes, I was trying to be very, very professional. But yes, for anyone that doesn't know, Wonder Woman, the new Wonder Woman is supposed to be premiering on HBO Max as well as in the theaters, but ain't nobody going to the theaters to watch it, which really, really, really upsets me because I have been saying this like every couple episodes whenever it comes up. I've just said that she deserves to have her theater debut again, or premiere, because she's already debuted. So her premiere in theater, because it's going to be a huge movie, because it's one of the only successful characters of the DC universe right now. So I am very, very upset about it. Also, that just means I have to keep HBO Max so that I can watch it when it comes out. But I'm very, very disappointed. Fucking Rona, yo.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised by this decision when I read it. I thought there's no way, because they're giving up at least $1 billion payday. Like, it's a huge gamble. And the ultimate reason is because they want to try to build HBO Max into like HBO's version of Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu or something like that.
Don't do it with Wonder Woman. Don't do it with some other no-name character, or less than it. Do it with Superman or some shit like that.
Yeah, like sure. I remember when Netflix was on the verge, was truly a video subscription service, and you would send in for DVDs, and they started with series and stuff like that. So, it's a big gamble, because you could have just pushed it to next summer. Although, there's a lot of uncertainty about what the box office, what the future of movie theater and movie going is going to look like in the future. But
summer's looking really crowded right now with all of the movies that did get pushed back until summertime.
Yeah, but this doesn't help the issue of what's going to happen with the theaters, because, you know, this is one of those big tent poles, and Disney Plus is now thinking about doing the same thing to a lot of their family movies like Pinocchio and Peter Pan and Cruella. But the question is, because with Wonder Woman on HBO Max, they're not charging an additional subscription. You're not going to get Mulan out the ass like we did with the original Mulan. I turned that into a verb.
Waste of money. Yes, you know what? And we gonna be using that from here on out. Okay. Hopefully, we don't want Wonder Woman to turn, to be a Mulan.
Yeah.
All right. Please don't be a Mulan.
Yeah. So they're not going to charge you anything extra to watch it on HBO Max, just that subscription. So the thing with Disney is, the question is, are they going to Mulan people, like charge people to watch extra to watch Peter Pan and those movies? Or are they going to do what they're doing with Soul, which they're also releasing, which I can't wait to see, the Disney Pixar movie Soul. They're not charging anything extra when they release that. I think it's coming out around Christmas. So that's the question that Disney is weighing now. Which one of these movies, and if they're going to charge anything extra. So Disney, but for them, Mulan was a financial success. So, yeah.
That's because everybody was waiting for Mulan to come out since March. So, of course, they paid that $30 because, it's a family movie. So they paid that $30 for their family to watch it. But yeah, after they paid that $30, they can never get rid of Disney Plus.
Thank you.
And also, it is premiering on Disney Plus for free on December 4th.
I know, and that upsets me because, I paid that money. Now I'm being held hostage, even though I'll never watch the movie again. It's just the principle. I can't get rid of Disney Plus because I can't take that piece of crap movie with me. But it's mine, damn it. It's mine.
You paid your $30.
Yeah, and I'm damn sure not buying it again. So it's like, it's the principle of Disney. You move on.
No. You know what that reminds me of? Is Mulan gonna kind of be like, you remember that YouTube album that Apple forced on everybody? Did you ever you remember that? YouTube, that's the name of the group, right? The music group with Bono?
U2, yes. Okay. I thought you said YouTube. I'm like, what? No,
YouTube.
Yes.
And they had an album, and all of a sudden you woke up one day and you had a whole new album from a group that you never asked for on your iTunes, and you couldn't get rid of it.
But see, at least that was free. I paid for this.
Yeah, but it's just gonna be there. It's just gonna be there. You can never get rid of Disney Plus, just like you couldn't get rid of that album. You can never get rid of Disney Plus just to make sure that you continue to keep Mulan, even if you never again in your life watch that movie. It's the principle of having it there.
Thank you. It's like I'm moving to an apartment and I buy some shit and I can't take my stuff with me when I leave. What the hell is that? Come on now. All right. So in another disappointing movie news, this one broke my heart. This one truly, I think it pissed me off, if I'm going to be quite honest. So James Bond, I'm an aspiring novice gamer. I want to get to the point where I can at least lose with dignity in video games, I suck. I bought an Xbox to keep me busy during Rona, and I still suck, but I try. And it is fun, but I suck. And I realized how bad I suck. So, I've been trying to keep up with games and learn how to play. Well, James Bond apparently is a big video game franchise, and their next game is they're going to give James Bond an origin story. So, in the video game, and that really hurt my heart. James Bond deserves an origin story, and it would solve so many problems with the James Bond franchise as far as where to go next, who's going to play the next Bond, if they went back and they just started from the beginning and showed us what we never saw, which was Bond's origin story. But they're doing it in a video game.
Just watch the video game.
You don't watch video games, you play video games.
Yeah, but doesn't all video games now have kind of like a storyline that goes along with it?
They do, but that's besides the point. How many people are going to watch,
They actually watch it, though. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I definitely get it. But they actually watch it. I remember when, before I moved here, babysitting those boys, and I would sit there and watch the storyline, like the mini movie that would happen before they started playing all of their whatever video game they were playing. It was like a full storyline that would happen, and it would introduce the characters and who they are, and I was just like, wow, like, are we watching a movie? He's just like, no, we just have to watch this, and then we're gonna get started playing. And I was just like, okay. So I guess it's for the ones who are really into James Bond and playing his video game.
I'm really into James Bond, and I haven't gotten to the part where I can even know how to begin to play the video game yet. I'm still trying to master NBA 2K, the practice sessions, so.
It's different to play like a James Bond movie, like a spy video game, compared to playing sports.
Yeah, I tried Grand Theft Auto, but I always get killed, very quickly.
Grand Theft Auto.
It's fun, but like I said, I'm still aspiring to get to the novice level of video gaming. So anybody with some tips, help me out here. Now, this is great news. People announced their sexiest man alive, and it's like people finally caught up with the rest of us and gave Michael B. Jordan the props that he deserves. He is 2020's sexiest man alive, the bright spot in this clusterfuck of a shit show dumpster fire year.
Damn. Okay.
Is that Michael B.
really
Jordan
excited.
Is the sexiest man alive. We've been knowing that, but thanks people for recognizing officially.
I mean, okay, wait. Oh my gosh. It's like I should have researched that, because it was a long time. I think, is it Ryan Gosling who's never gotten it?
Ryan Gosling's had it.
Someone has never gotten. It's either Ryan Gosling or Bradley Cooper. One of them have never gotten sexiest man alive. And it was like a real popular year where they were really doing a lot, and they still did not get it. And so I feel like sometimes that's with like the people that we know are sexy and we know should get it, but then they always pass them over. Like, we were talking about this and I asked you like, oh, who was it last year? And you were just like, oh, John Legend. And I was just like, all right, that's cool, because John Legend can get it, like he just sing to me, definitely. And then you told me who got it the year before, and I said, that's some bullshit. All right, because I don't see sexiness in that. But to each their own. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Wait, I'm going through now, and Sean Connery was the sexiest man alive in '89. I have to co-sign on
There goes your grandpa thing.
May he rest, because Sean Connery. Okay, I'm not going to do that too, But I'm looking now and just scrolling through. You may be right. I don't think either one of those gentlemen. I want to say,
I think Bradley Cooper has. Ryan Gosling never has. Ryan Gosling did not get it. I think it was one year where he was up again. I forgot who he was up against, and they ended up getting it because they had a real popular year as well. And that upset some people that he did not get sexy.
Yeah, it was the other Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds has gotten it. Ryan Gosling hasn't. Bradley Cooper's gotten it too. Hey.
Okay.
Good looking out. Idris was 2018. Okay. Let me stop.
Wait, then when was Blake Shelton?
Blake Shelton was 17.
Oh yeah, my bad. I take that back. 3 years ago, I had a what the fuck moment.
I was going to say, you what the fuck, Idris? What did someone say? They say, yeah. I don't say what the. Never mind. Yeah, That's not the question they asked. They asked, when can we? But never mind. Okay, let me stop.
Yeah, you just went into your moment. I'm gonna let you do that on yourself by yourself. I
my mind goes to weird, strange, dirty, perverted places sometimes. You gotta stop me. You can't just let me go.
Nah, go for it. Go for it.
You're gonna get us off the air.
All right. We're just really happy that Michael B. Jordan has finally gotten it. I think 2000. Now we've been fans of his. Well, I've been a fan of his since All My Children.
Yes.
I have loved him since All My Children. I think he showed his acting chops in All My Children, and he was just great. And since then, like, you know, kind of slowly following him and seeing how his stardom has kind of grown and progressed, and he's just gotten so sexy. And then in Black Panther, where, like, you know, he did my full on like Black Panther, and he was great and just made you really feel for him in the end on why he did what he did, which just shows how an amazing actor that he is. Another one, okay, so most people don't remember this, but one of my favorite movies of Michael B. Jordan is That Awkward Moment. Okay? Not only because Michael B. Jordan is in it, but also because my other love is starring in that movie as well, which is Zac Efron.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say someone else. I was like, no.
No! Okay. Zac Efron and Michael B. Jordan. And then I forgot what the other dude's name is. But yeah.
Miles Teller. That's what I thought you were
He's in it. Oh, I heard he's in it. Oh.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'm very, very excited that he finally got into 2020. Congratulations. You so deserve it, because, woo, that body, your personality, like, your dedication is like, he's the whole package. Definitely deserves to be sexiest man alive.
Like I said, a bright spot in this year that is known as 2020.
In addition to that, JK was voted sexiest international man.
Hey, go Jean Cookie. Jean Cookie. Okay. Wait, we're gonna save that because our bang thing so you're done conversation next week. I'm working on my Korean. Haha. All right. So now, in other news, Harry Styles became the first man to have a solo cover of Vogue magazine. You go.
Love it.
He slayed the cover. Okay?
Amazing.
So that's what the news and all the hype and the talk should have been about. But leave it up to certain people. They want to turn it into a whole talk about masculinity, gender identity, because Harry Styles happened to be wearing a dress. Not just on the cover, but throughout the cover spread, he was in dresses. And yeah, so I'm gonna need you to get your girl Candace and tell her to go have
you know
several
what?
seats.
I'll be honest and say I don't even blame Candace. I blame the fact that we still currently live in a homophobic society, no matter with the progressions that we have for the LGBTQ community. We still live in an extremely homophobic, conservative society. And of course, it's not only her, but I can definitely hear people that are around me having that same conversation on questioning, you know, his manhood and his masculinity based on the fact that he's okay with himself enough and he's confident in himself enough that he can wear a dress and still be a man. Like,
yeah, and I get that, and you're right. It wasn't just Candace. It was, you know, Ben Shapiro and that whole conservative movement, those brain trust in that movement. And my thing, I had several issues with it besides the whole toxic masculinity, which I will just. With everything else that's going on in the world right now, that's the battle you want to fight. That's the thing that you want to talk about, is someone on the cover of a fashion magazine wearing a dress.
Yes.
Like, you know, yeah.
No, but
okay.
like, I think like we definitely cannot look at it that way, because with everything going on, we still have to have, you know, conversations like of what's going on around us and everything like that. So I understand, and I'm okay with those conversations coming up and having a conversation about the fact that he did wear a dress throughout the spread. My thing is, like, let's have that conversation. Also bring in the fact that we have toxic masculinity and we live in a homophobic society, which leads to violence and violent acts because we treat boys and men and we tell them that if they don't act this certain way and they're not angry and violent, then they are not man enough. And that's the conversation that needs to be had. And the only way those conversations come up is if we talk about Harry Styles being in a dress on Vogue.
But those conversations generally don't go past the fact of that he's on the dress in the Vogue. And I agree with you, especially
we're talking about
giving
it.
that.
Then again, we're way more liberal than they are.
Yeah. I was about to say we're us, yeah, we will talk about it, and especially considering the fact that yesterday was Trans Recognition Day or Trans Remembrance Day. So, but the whole toxic masculinity, it was kind of disturbing because there's like, oh, well, because he's wearing a dress, he's less of a man. And my whole thing was this: it's like, dude, I wear men's clothes.
Doesn't count.
Why not?
It doesn't count because women are seen as the weaker sex. So because we're seen as the weaker sex, anything a man does that is referred to as a woman's thing makes them weaker. But anything that we do that is considered to be male dominated makes us stronger or makes us seem stronger.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess, but so yeah,
that was my sociological mindset coming out right there. That's a whole conversation we can have one day.
Yes, we should. We should add it to the list of things to talk about. Now, also, and I shouldn't make this connection, but from Harry Styles, we move on to Taylor Swift.
That is a perfect segue. Good job.
Perfect segue. What was his song? I forgot, but it was on the 1984 album, which was great. Was it 84, 89? I'm horrible with names, numbers, dates, titles. Anyway, Taylor's masters have been sold out from under her again.
Oh, so sad.
It is. I like Taylor Swift. She has her moments, and she's a hell of a songwriter. And I am a fan. I do like her music. I will admit that. And this year, she became the social justice warrior we didn't know we needed in many ways. So I can applaud that. Whoever thought she and Kanye would totally do a 180 in that regard. But I don't know why they keep messing with Taylor. Like, she is the queen of petty. You got to give her that. So, Scooter Braun, who bought her former label for $300 million, reportedly, he sold her masters for at least $300 million plus. Now, here's the deal. She had been trying to buy her masters back, apparently, from him, but they could never reach an agreement because he wanted her to sign some really super restrictive NDA, which she refused. And then the group who bought the masters, they wanted to do some business with her too, but when she found out Scooter Braun would still be involved, she said no. Long story short, as of November this year, Taylor was able, I think because she owns the publishing rights, or she's the songwriter, producer for all of her stuff, she still was able to come back and re-record the songs. So Taylor being Taylor, she is started to re-record her original songs, which to me is going to devalue the price of those masters exponentially, especially when she releases new versions of them.
Good luck, Taylor. I mean, like, to be honest, I could care less. Like, through this whole thing, I think half of the time I felt like she was boo-hooing over BS. And she was boo-hooing to get sympathy over this rather than, putting on her big woman pants and doing what she needs to do to get her masters. Because in the beginning, when they were trying to give it to her, she wanted it on her terms and they told her no. And then later on, now all of a sudden it's flipped because she's so popular that of course there's going to be more people on her side for it. So now he looks like a horrible person for keeping her masters and not giving them to her and not selling them to her. And I'm just like, boo-hoo, re-record and keep it moving.
Okay, so I like I said, I tend to disagree with that. I understand, like, that's a whole big thing about people in the music industry being able to actually own their masters. And I remember it was a whole big deal way back with Tupac and Death Row and his masters and all of that kind of stuff. So I get it. I get why she
was it that Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre? Because Dr. Dre, to leave Death Row, he had to leave all of his masters behind in order to start over. He can't record or make any money off of his old songs.
Yeah, that's Snoop Dogg in order to get out of death row.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then Suge is crazy about people's masters because he held Vanilla Ice over a building for his or something. So, But yeah, it is a big deal. And like I said, one of Kanye's latest rants, he was talking about, the importance of people owning their masters and how the record companies get over with that. So I understand the business aspect of it. And in her new contract, she does own her masters outright, which is good for her. So we will see how this goes and what happens with the re-recording and how it all plays out. So that does it for the wind down. Go get you a popcorn break and come back with us on the flip side when we discuss The Neighbor. All right, hope you enjoyed your popcorn break. Now, let's get into our discussion of The Neighborhood, which is a 30-minute comedy that usually airs on CBS on Monday nights. And it's about a white Midwestern family that moves to a predominantly Black neighborhood in Pasadena, California. And The Neighborhood is not something that is on my list. I do like the show, but it's not in rotation. So I'll watch it when, I have time or there's nothing else on. But I really want to make sure to watch the season premiere because it was dealing with the issues of social justice and the Black Lives Matter movement. Tammy, what did you think of it? Well, first of all, do you normally watch The Neighborhood?
I watched it when it first premiered because I liked, I think her name is Beth Bears from Two Broke Girls. So I used to watch Two Broke Girls and I love that show. So with her new show, she's actually the one that pulled me into it to watch it just to kind of see how it was because it was a new comedy for her. And then the concept of dealing with a white family moving into a Black neighborhood and basically like starting the whole gentrification process. So I did watch it when it first premiered. I always found it to be funny. It's just not on my rotation. And that's because I don't really watch 30-minute comedies on TV. That's not my type of that's not the shows that I watch. That's not on my TV schedule. But whenever I did watch it, I did enjoy it. Like there wasn't an episode that I watched when I randomly caught it where I wasn't enjoying it. It's just never been put onto my rotation at all.
Exactly. It's for the exact same reason. I like Cedric the Entertainer and Tashina Arnold from Martin and all of that. So it's nice to see her. Pam, beady. Let me stop. But I do enjoy it, and I did like when you mentioned gentrification. That was one of the first things that they tackled in the episode in the premiere was the gentrification and all of that. So. And I like this episode, and I like the show because it's rare for a CBS show that it really does tackle some of the issues. It didn't just gloss over them or barely mention them and move on. It does address those issues. And so, yeah. But what did you think about this episode in particular?
I thought it was really, really good compared to other shows that try to tackle, social justice issues or race issues, to be more specific. They did a really, really good job. And I was surprised because it is a 30-minute comedy. So my hopes weren't too high. I was just kind of interested just because they said that it was going to be focused on the Black Lives Matter and everything that went on over the summer. So we were interested. So of course we put it on the list, but I was surprised. It was better than other shows like SWAT. Very, very disappointed in SWAT and whatever they tried to present in their show. But The Neighborhood did a really, really good job. And I love the fact that I enjoyed it and I got it even without them really showing the scenes. So they talked about what happened, but they didn't actually show the different scenes of the interactions with the cops and all. They didn't really show those scenes of what happened to. I believe his name is it not? It's not Calvin.
It was Trey.
What happened to him, and that they didn't actually have to show it, but you still got it, and you were still entertained, and you were still focused on no, they're definitely hitting the points that need to be hit. and having the conversations. The best conversation was when Beth Bear's main character, I don't know none of the characters' names, that shows you how I don't really watch the show that much. Her character was talking to her son, and she was explaining to her son what happened. And when he was just like, oh my God, could that ever happen to me? And she said, no. And he was like, why? And she's like, because you're white. And that was like the deepest and most honest like answer to that question. And I think we talk about our parents having to have that conversation with us. That's a conversation that white parents need to have with their kids.
It is. And I applaud them for that, because normally it wasn't a matter of, and I think it just shows how far they've come and just the realization of the neighborhood that they live in now. But I think, and they still have some naivety about some things, especially when Calvin and Dave were in the police station and Dave was just being Dave. But that was a deep conversation, and it wasn't anything. And it just shows the opposite conversation that Tashina Arnold's character, Tina, was saying that she had to have with her sons around the same age. Except it wasn't, oh, this will never happen to you because you're white. It was, this is going to happen to you because you're black. And to tell someone that, and I remember, and as a girl, it's different conversations, but I remember my mom having those conversations with me about, going to the stores. When you go into the store, don't touch anything. Not necessarily because you're not going to buy it, but because, don't touch anything, then put your hands in your pocket. Don't do this, don't do that, because people, mommy, why is this person following us around the store? That type of thing. Those conversations that we had to have as young Black children growing up.
I never had the conversation. I understand having that conversation, but my mom never had that conversation with me whatsoever. It was, I think, just my own mindset of, first of all, I lived in a bubble because I moved from like a predominantly diverse neighborhood to a predominantly Black and Hispanic neighborhood. And that was my bubble, where everywhere I went and everyone that I saw looked like me, or if they didn't look like me, then most likely I wasn't hanging out with you. But I never had that conversation. I really did not catch how significant it was, besides watching it on TV, because you see things on TV and you understand the significance. But experiencing it myself, I didn't experience that until I was an adult. But I was one of those Black kids that never had that conversation, but just knew, like, it was already like in my head on what I can and cannot do. But
I was the opposite. I grew up in predominantly white neighborhoods, and went to predominantly white schools, and we had the conversation. And I remember, there's some things you never forget. So I never forget the first time that I was called the N-word. And, I went home and I didn't know what it meant. I think I was about 6. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it was something bad. And I went home and I told my mom, and this little boy was supposed to be my friend because we were walking home from school. And I don't know how it started, but I remember, and my mom being my mom, this is probably why I love reading dictionaries so much, is she made me look up the word in a dictionary and find out what it actually meant, the actual meaning of the word. And then she explained to me the slang and all of that kind of stuff. And then she told me what to say the next time the little boy called me that and what to do.
I want to say, what's his name? What's his name? We can do a drive-by real quick.
But so she told me, she took it old school because, my mom is old school from the movement. And she was like, you tell that little so-and-so, the next time you say that to you, say your mom, and we went there. And then she told me you got that little MF in his eye and keep it moving.
See, and the funny thing is, like, even though, like, I know we're talking about like the racial side, but I remember, like, what really stuck in my head is I don't remember the first time I was ever called the N-word, but I remember the first time a boy called me a bitch. and the when people say you see red and you don't see nothing else but the fact that you want to beat their ass, like, that is a moment that I had, and I've always reacted that way. I said, you know, you call me whatever you want, but don't call me out my name.
Yeah.
And I've always had that reaction, and I've always, like, my mom would be like, okay, you know, you can't react this way, and I said, well, then he shouldn't be calling me that. Like, that's how it's gonna go down, you know. But I do remember the first time I was called a bitch. I don't remember the first time I was called an N-word, but I remember the first time I was called a bitch, and that, like, the feelings that I have, I'm sure I had the same feelings with that.
Well, it's just, you know, and I guess just because I had diverse friends, and my mom has never told me who I could and could not hang out with, but she always made sure that I knew the differences. No matter how good of friends you were with the kids, your parents might look at you differently, or you become aware of certain things. And so just growing up, you do casually become aware. Kids are kids. And, you know, to me, he was just my friend. He was just a boy, you know, this little boy I walked home from school with. We played together. But after that, something changed. Like, it did change for me, you know. And it's like, okay, how can you call me that? How would you even know to call me that? And, you know, it's like, and I told him. His
parents taught him.
Exactly. And I was like, we can't be friends anymore. We can't walk home anymore because of this. Like, you what you call me, you know? So, yeah, it's just, I remember those conversations and my mom having them with me. So I thought that was, and recently just conversations that I've had with friends who are not who are not Black, about different things and how we try to live in this bubble, but we can't. Like, you know, the world is not a bubble that we can live in. I guess
it's going back to, you remember when we talked about this with Enola Holmes, and or we can even talk about with the boys, where there's always a conversation on that there is privilege that you have, that there is certain issues that you can ignore in the world, and the reason why is because you have white privilege, so you can ignore the issues that are going on in the world, certain issues, if it does not apply to you. Just like if you are rich. If you're a rich person, like, you can ignore the plight of the poor because that is not your life. That's a privilege that you have. And I think having that conversation and being like, you have to recognize your privilege in order to see the changes that need to happen in society so that everybody can have that opportunity, not just those born into it, you know?
Yeah, but the term white privilege has become, I guess, for lack of a better term, so bastardized and corrupted that people think it means something like, oh, you think you're special. No, it just means that you have and that's what I had to explain to a friend. It's like, no, it just means that you have the privilege of not having to think about these things.
Yes.
You know, you have the ability to be able to go through your life, and if you get stopped by a cop, it's an annoyance to you. It's just like crap. You know, to me, it's a matter of life and fucking death. Like, the things that go through my mind, the fear that overtakes me, you know, is something
the fact
different.
That you possibly have to call somebody when you get pulled over just to make sure they can hear what's going on.
Or like, the fact, yeah, like, is this my, you know, just the innate fear that comes from that. So it's like that's the privilege. Those are things that you don't have to worry about. When you walk into a store, are you going to get overserved, underserved, or just straight up ignored? You know, there's no in between. They're either going to follow me all the way through the store and pop up if I put my hand on a pair of shoes to see the size of it, like, or I'm just going to be ignored, or, you know, or if I ask a question, it's going to be like I'm annoying them, you know. So,
or like, why are you asking me that question? It's not like you could really afford it anyway.
Exactly. So, yeah, but I really do. I did enjoy this episode. I thought they did a great job. I love the conversations that they had, and it kind of made me think Dave is running for city council, I guess. And I was like, this would be a great thing for him to put in his platform, just these experiences and to be able to talk about these things. And I love how they didn't approach it from that fact that the butlers, because they're white, they just have this innate naivety about the situation. You know, like I said, Dave was a little naive about it at first when he, and you know,
but
Calvin,
they learned.
they were willing to learn, and they opened their eyes. It wasn't just like, oh no, this can't be. Like again, another friend, there was a post, and the person had on Twitter, and the person, it was at one of those Trump rallies, and the person had Confederate flags all on their truck, and they were saying something, and they had nooses hanging from the truck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the person, his response was, oh, y'all are being punked. This is a joke. They're just doing this for basically clout. And I'm like, that is your white privilege. You have the privilege. You have the ability to see something like this and think, oh, it can't be real. This is a joke. I don't have the privilege of thinking that this is a fucking joke.
You got to take all of those things seriously, because you don't know, even if it's done for publicity or whatever, you don't know that one person that's going to flip it.
Yeah.
And take it real serious.
You know, like the whole noose thing after NASCAR this summer with Bubba Wallace and the noose hanging from the garage in the NASCAR. You know, it's like, how the hell can you have that hanging for 2 years and no one notices it until, you know, or it's just a joke, or it just happened to be tied that way. As a Black person, I don't have the ability to take that as a joke, and I sure as hell don't find it funny.
Nope.
So, but yeah, another show that kind of sort of touted itself as dealing with this issue was SWAT. And it was more of an homage to, or a flashback to, Rodney King and what was going on around the time when the Rodney King beating happened in the early 90s. And I thought they did a piss poor job. I was so
horrible. I was so bored I turned it off.
I watched the whole thing all the way through, but I was completely disappointed.
I know we talked about, you know, how, you know, with Shamar Moore and the conversations, and you were telling me how, like, you know, they're really going to start addressing these issues more and everything like that on SWAT. Yeah, if this is how they're going to be addressing those issues, yeah, no. Yeah. It's not going to work.
It's not. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think CBS as a whole does a piss poor job of addressing real life issues, of social justice issues, of equality issues, women, men, all of that stuff. We know they have one of the worst records just off the scenes and behind the scenes for everything that goes on with sexual harassment and just different things, different issues as a network. But a lot of their shows tend to just gloss over the issues. I think that's one of the reasons why I do like The Neighborhood so much when I do get a chance to watch it, is because they don't run away from those issues.
Yeah, and I've stopped watching a couple of CBS shows just because of, like, how they've decided to address certain issues or ignore certain issues that go on within their show, and then how they try to, like you said, they gloss it over, like it's a footnote.
Yeah,
like it's a footnote. Even though, like, even when you have a main character that you can definitely use to really address these issues, and yet you still make it a footnote. You know? So yeah.
And that's what I think they did. Like the Rodney King episode, you had so many. There are so many ways you could have brought that into today and what's happening today. And at the end, Hondo just ends up going down the street, but it doesn't really address him being a Black cop. How, you know, the dichotomy between being a Black man who lives in, I'm assuming, South Central or somewhere in South LA, versus him being a high-ranking police officer in the SWAT division.
With everything going on in society now.
Yeah, and it just talks about how his dad was disappointed that he went to the Marines rather than playing football, and then how his dad was disappointed that he became a cop. But it doesn't really talk about how that works in his neighborhood, how the people see him, what type of cop is he in the neighborhood? Is he the cop that really comes through and helps people? Is he the cop that the kids can rely on? Like, it never really addresses those issues. And I'm going to give him a chance because, again, this was just the first episode. We have a whole season to go. but I want to see if they're truly going to address it, or if that first episode, the season premiere, was what they did, and if they're going to continue to play lip service to it, because I can't. It really wasn't. It really didn't live up to expectations. Let me just put it that way. And another one of our favorite shows, Chicago PD, they seem to be going all in on the issue, especially with the Atwater storyline, which I'm loving.
And they have previously, like, Atwater, like, the one thing I would say is, before we get into like the main point of it, is with Atwater character, how he's had conversations with his brother about the fact of there's certain things that you can't do because you're a black man living in Chicago, in South Chicago, like South Central, South Side.
Yeah, South
Side Chicago. And he's had those conversations with his brother. So the fact that he's had those conversations with his brother lets you know that at least they try to address it way better than some CBS shows do.
They do. And I'm happy for several reasons. Atwater, to me, has always been one of the most underutilized characters on that show. And I want to see him get a prime storyline on Chicago PD. I love it. It's about time. And also, they are going full force with the storyline that started last year before all of this happened. And they're weaving in everything that's happened over the summer and everything that's happened in 2020. So I look forward to seeing how that's going to progress and play out. Because even Adam, he straight up told Voight, because he was like, Voight was like, why doesn't he just drop it? Why doesn't he just do this, coming up against the blue wall? And Adam straight up told him, can you imagine having to come up against the blue wall, especially as a black cop?
And that's what I am really enjoying about what I started to enjoy last season when they really started the storyline. And I know I'm going to enjoy this season, is that Voight is the image of that cop. Mm-hmm. Of the cop that Atwater is now fighting against. And Voight was just like, I got your back. Like, remember last year, he was like, I got your back. Like, we got this. And as it starts to get harder, and Voight realized that he's getting a lot of pushback from the same men who police the same way that he has, now it's kind of like he doesn't know where to go with this, because it's like, okay, now I'm hitting the blue wall and I've never hit the blue wall. Like that's never been my thing. So can you just drop this so we can go back to policing the way that we do? And he's just like, no. Like we gotta address the fact that no, like this is not how we do things. Like when he wanted to send that dude down into the cage.
Oh yeah.
And beat the crap, and he was just like, no, we're not doing it.
Yeah, he's like, nah, Sarge, those days are over. Like, nah, like, and when Adam was gonna go up at that guy, and I forgot her name right now, but she Burgess. Was like, Burgess, yeah, she was like, no, I'm not losing my career over this. We're not doing that anymore. So it's just interesting to see, like, there are going to be some people who are dyed in blue cops who are just going to stay tried and true to the old ways. And it's interesting to see how they're going to bump heads against the people who were never really too comfortable with it, but maybe went along to get along. So I'm interested to see how that dichotomy plays out. But I think a lot of shows are going to start addressing this. Not just, hopefully some of the shows that start addressing these issues are not just police shows. Like Grey's Anatomy has taken the opportunity to address the COVID issue, not just as far as it's a hospital show and their patients are dealing with COVID, but they have now one of their main characters dealing with COVID, having a serious case of it, and that's Meredith.
And they also mentioned how different populations have been affected more by COVID than other populations. That was something that was mentioned in the first episode of the season, was them having that conversation about the racial populations and how Black people are experiencing COVID at a higher rate than white populations. So that was a real good thing, letting you know, like, they're going to be honest about it.
Yeah. So I want to see some other shows. Like, I know I'm interested to see what they do with All American. All American, because of the dynamic of the show, has never shied away from social justice issues. Sometimes I think they wrap them up a little too in a too nice and neat of a bow. But I'm interested to see what they're going to do with that. That would be a show that I think could go a long way if they
with
chose
COVID
to.
or with the racial issues.
With the racial issues.
I think they've been addressing it since the beginning, though. Like, they'll just continue to address it the way that they have. I feel that All American has done a good job of really pointing out the fact that you have biracial
children.
Biracial children going to a predominantly white school in Beverly Hills.
And realizing that, hey, okay, at one point, I really did like Olivia's coming into her own and really addressing her blackness last year.
Yeah, definitely. And then her brother realizing that, dude, you black.
Yeah.
With that whole encounter that he had with the cop, and it really, really affected him. And kind of saying, like, when Taye Diggs' character said, we did everything. We had the conversation, we went through that, and yet still, because they grow up in the neighborhood that they grow up in, they're still living in a bubble, and you don't realize until you go outside your bubble how different people that look like you live their lives compared to you.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see how they will continue to address that storyline. Are there any other shows that you want to see tackle these issues of social justice, and not just the Me Too, not just gloss over Me Too, but
all of them? I think of, I'm kind of really closed in on, like, my TV shows that I watch. You know where my bubble is right now. But
yeah. Okay, so stepping out of K-drama, going back to USA drama.
But yeah, because of course, we got premieres coming up now. There are a couple of shows where have tried to kind of address it, but I do think that they've kind of glossed over it because they don't want to get too deep into it. And I think sometimes with these shows, their thing is they don't want to step on anybody's toes, and they don't want to get the criticism that shows will always get. You're going to get criticism no matter how you address an issue. One of those shows was that I used to watch. I don't watch it as much now. Was The Bold Type. And The Bold Type has two white girls and one biracial girl who, they're best friends, and they're going through their career in the fashion world together as a group and as a clique. And the biracial girl, like, she's gone through some issues based on the fact that she's black, and she's never forgotten it, but she kind of she kind of tampers it down because of the fact that her two best friends are white. And there was an episode where one of the characters, the white characters, was talking, and she was talking like she knew what she was talking about. And finally, like, she had to be like, stop, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's not how it goes. That's not the experience that I've had. And she was like, yeah, but we don't mean anything by it. And she's just like, it's not your meaning, it's how I take it. And if I take it a certain way, as in it's racist, then I'm going to let you know it's racist. Just because you don't intend it to be racist, that's just you being naive. And there was a real honest conversation that she had. Now, the only thing is that at the end, her best friend didn't fully get it. And it was kind of like, oh, but you forgive me, right? And it was glossed over on, okay, we're going to move on. And it was never addressed really again after that moment. And that's what kind of, I guess, gets me mad, is, like you said, when they do that, where you want to address it with the main characters, but because you don't want to step on nobody, so you don't want to have an honest conversation about the fact that a lot of, let's be honest, a lot of white people have very prejudiced and discriminatory, like, thoughts in their head, and they don't realize that it is. And they won't realize it without telling them, without them coming out and having that conversation. You've been like, nope, don't no, because I'm not taking that the way that you intended to be taken.
Yeah. Naomi Osaka, who's a tennis player, do you know who she is?
You know what, Eddie?
No. Okay. Naomi Osaka.
No, Eddie.
What?
I'm going to kick you in the shin next time I see you. Of course, I know who she is.
Okay, well, you don't watch sports, so okay, I'm sorry.
But
that was my bad.
I know the black people in sports.
Okay, so Naomi Osaka, she's mixed, Japanese and black, and
Yes.
she mostly lives in Japan. So they asked her about racism in Japan, and she said, yes, it does exist. I'm going to be honest. She said, but also you have to realize that it doesn't. She said most of it doesn't come from a place of pure hatred, like some of it here, a lot of it here. It comes out of a place of ignorance. They just don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's such a homogenous society. So I'm going to say that some white people, like you were just saying, it doesn't come from a place of meanness or spite. It comes from a place of ignorance in the sense that they don't know, they don't realize.
And if nobody
tells them,
yeah, because I have a friend who, when she says certain things, like we automatically we correct her, and it's always on because one time she was like, I didn't know, like certain things that she used to say, we would kind of just let it pass, and we'd be like, oh, okay, and then kind of brush it off, and then we slowly started to tell her nope, that's not, nope, we don't talk like that, nope, that's not what you need to be saying, nope, that's not gonna work. And so even now, she'll kind of look and be like, is that okay? And I'll be like, no, it's not okay. She'll be like, oh, okay. She's like, because I feel like it wasn't okay, but it's in her head, and it's thoughts and how she grew up that she doesn't know anything. If you don't tell them, they don't know. And so
yeah. And
yeah,
once you have those conversations, I feel like you can have a more honest relationship.
Yes, I agree.
And every time I say something, it's not me being easily offended or it's just me wanting to. It's
help?
Me trying to help. Yeah, it's like I'm not trying to have this whole deep, but it's just me letting you know, hey, that's not okay. But so
I just to close it out a little bit. The one thing is that because I think that a lot of times we as Black people don't we take it the wrong way, and we don't want to correct because we feel like it's not our job, and so we kind of just have a negative viewpoint of other people. And so just like we may feel like it's not our job, but nobody gets educated
if you don't have the conversation.
If you don't have the conversation, and it may annoy you, and you may be annoyed having the same conversations over and over again, but nobody gets educated with silence. And that's what Black people need to realize. You may be annoyed at the fact that you continuously have to educate people on what to say and not say in front of you, but they will not learn if you do not teach them. And that's where we need to keep into our heads when we're having conversations with people of other races.
I agree with that. Okay. Well, and I think that just about wraps it up for this week on the Popcorn Wind Down. Thank you for joining us as always. Be sure to turn in next week where we will talk about...
Don't say it. BTS. We're going to be talking about BTS and their new album called B.
No. I had to get it out. Okay. I'm on my learning Korean tip for those of you that don't know or haven't realized. And it drives her crazy. But anyway, yes, we will be talking about BTS and their new album B. So be sure to join us next week. And until next time, thank you. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.